Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we have the elimination race here of the round of 12 at the Charlotte Roval. But first we have an announcement here for the Career Mode, a brand new sponsor coming to the Hendrick Motorsports 24 team next season. Instead of Pepsi, we are welcoming Dr. Pepper to the 24 team here. And here is the beautiful paint scheme made by Lation that you will be seeing on our car next season. You will be seeing this a lot more than you see the Pepsi car currently in the next season, so very excited to bring this car to you guys because I think it looks beautiful. This was not planned whatsoever. Actually, he made it as a joke and I thought it looked great, and I said, you know what, we have to put that on track. So that's why I moved Pepsi over to Daniel Suarez for my own team, so that way we can still have Pepsi kind of with us but in a different way and still have this cool Dr. Pepper paint scheme on the track. So very excited to bring this one to you guys next season, and let me know in the comments what you think about it. I think it's one of the best games so far I think we've seen in the career mode. But now we come through into the race weekend here for the Xfinity Series at the Charlotte Roval. So elimination races today, and obviously on the Cup Series side of things, we just won last episode at Talladega. Very lucky to be in a position to win, and we took advantage of it, and now we are locked into that round of 8, and we are going to go into that round of 8 and be in a very comfortable spot to probably make that Final Four here. Now, as unfortunately, Paul Menard started from the back after failing inspection, so he had a lot of work to do here, but he has a decent point buffer above that cut line, so it really wasn't too big of a deal for Paul here as he came through out of turns 1, heading down into turn 2, making up a few spots right off the bat. Now, as we got to look at drivers like Quinn Houff, who's currently on the verge of being eliminated and not running very good so far at the start of this race here in Charlotte. So it was looking very early on like Quinn Houff, unfortunately, who came into the playoffs. He was like 5th or 6th in the standings, barely made it. It was in a must-win situation at Richmond to get in. He went and won, and now is about to be eliminated here, unfortunately. Now, as we came through a little bit later, Paul continuing to work his way through the field now as the laps were winding down, and he was working his way through the field pretty well now. But like I said, there was not a whole lot of time left for Paul to make it happen now as he was up the inside of the 19 of Ty Gibbs. And then as we came through to the final lap of this race, he had now rebounded to the top half of the field, at least as he came through oval turn 3 and 4 for the final time. It's not going to be a great result for our Xfinity Series team here with Paul Menard behind the wheel, but it's still going to be enough to get us through into the next round of the playoffs. Now as he goes up the inside, it's to Tommy Joe Martin's actually some contact right there, but they come through to cross the line for a P10 finish, so still can't really complain there as we get a top 10 out of it as Sam Mayer picks up the victory, locks himself into the next round of the playoffs, and that would be his second win on the season. Sam Mayer has been pretty good at the road courses in this game, so that's been a bit surprising, but obviously it's working out for him really well. Puts him in a good spot going into that next round as you see the 4 drivers eliminated: Landon Castle, Quinn Houff, Ryan Sieg, as well as Riley Herbst. So now we have 8 drivers remaining on the Xfinity side of things, and we will be about to have 8 drivers remaining here on the Cup Series side of things after this episode comes to an end, as we would get ready for qualifying here at the Charlotte Roval with the Razor scheme back on the car once again. I had issues right off the bat. I had a huge moment coming to start my lap. I got very sideways, and we did save it, fortunately, but then it would honestly get even worse because right here I would actually spin the car out off the curbing, hit the barrier, and that would pretty much just destroy any chance that we had of putting in a good qualifying lap. So we would just bring the car back around and give up a 128.4 and end up still qualifying better than a few drivers here in P37. So that was a bit surprising. You see, we still beat Justin Haley, Ross Chastain, as well as Joey Gates, but an absolute disastrous qualifying attempt for us here at the Charlotte Roval. Definitely not what we want to have, but we are locked into the next round, so it doesn't really affect us too much. But now you see the top 10, Chase Elliott second, Matt DiBenedetto on pole, and as you guys know, a very interesting situation going into this race. The top 4 qualifiers are all the final 4 drivers on the outside looking in to get into the next round of the playoffs. Alright boys, we got that win at Talladega, so I mean, we can take a hit like this, but I'm hopeful we can work our way through the field today, so let's go have a good one. There you hear myself on the radio as we get ready to go green. So here's the playoff situation for the 4 drivers on the outside looking in currently. Chase Briscoe is 7 points below the cut line. Ryan Preece is 9 points below. Chase Elliott 14 below. And Matt DiBenedetto 21 points below the cut line, and they all start in the top 4 positions. Did not expect to see that whatsoever, and that could really change things today here with the playoff grid if things go right for those guys and they stay up there for the rest of this race. Now, as the green flag is out and the elimination race for the round of 12 here, the Charlotte ROVAL is underway now, side by side with the 42 Chastain. A bit of a messed up start for myself. Not used to starting this far back in the field at the Charlotte ROVAL just because of my own stupidity in qualifying here. Now as we're up the inside of that 42 again of Chastain here as we come through turns 2. So not really sure exactly what the game plan was for myself here on the opening lap, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't run into the back of anybody. That's really the big thing, because you see here some stack ups that I'm trying to avoid now here as we're side by side with Eric Jones in that McLaren, as well as William Byron. Both of those drivers currently not in the playoffs. Byron made the playoffs, got eliminated in round 1. Eric Jones came up short just in general, as he does have a win this season, though. He picked up a win in the playoffs recently, but of course wasn't in the playoffs to advance to anything. Matt DiBenedetto, though, was out in front here as he came through out of the oval turns 2, so he is in a position where he's 21 points below that cut line coming into the race. He's not in a must-win situation mathematically, but realistically, you got to look at trying to win this race. And I said at Talladega, I said that the odds of Matt DiBenedetto winning are extremely unlikely. He's never really been that good at this racetrack, and here he is right now leading the way there as you see some sideways action from that 0-2 of Eric Jones. Honestly, I felt like it was a decent first lap of myself, just being as careful as possible, and we still gained a handful of positions, but definitely if we want to get up in the mix before this race is over, we need to be gaining spots at a way faster rate than we currently are here as we come through this final chicane. Just being extremely careful because I don't want to damage the car right now as we almost forced it 3 wide with Jones and Almirola with 4 laps still remaining in stage 1, so we still do have a decent amount of time. And as we came through now back to the oval section of the track, Chase Elliott had actually taken the lead away from Matt DiBenedetto. Elliott out by 14 at one of his best tracks, so he has a good chance today to still potentially point his way into that round of 8 now as we come through right to the back of the 17 of Chris Buescher. We're going to look to the left hand side of him and continue moving forwards now up towards that top 25 here if we can clear him out of this corner. And sure enough, we do get past that 17 just about. He fights back on the right hand side but didn't have anything for me. Now as we came through to the bus stop chicane here is actually brake too late, nearly into the back of my teammate Kyle Larson, so I go off track to avoid him, and we give ourselves a course penalty here in the bus stop in the first stage at the Charlotte ROVAL. And unfortunately I was stuck on the turtle, so it made it even worse to get the car going, but just all on me right there. I gave up all of our progress we just made up because I was hauling right at the back of the 5 of Kyle Larson. Did not want to run into my teammate and mess up his playoff chances, so I avoided him, and unfortunately I couldn't get that car slowed down enough to not get a penalty. So now here we are trying to work our way back through the traffic. At this point I was a little bit heated, of course, with my own mistakes, so you just saw me drive into the, I think that was the 36 of David Reagan. So now we're trying to rally our way back forwards here with the little time we have left in stage 1, but we wasted no time. We were now up to the inside of William Byron here back into oval 1, and we were making a good chunk of progress here within the final couple laps as Chase Elliott was continuing to lead the way to the final lap of stage 1 as I clear that 43 of Almirola. So now back to P31 now, just trying to make sure we don't make that silly mistake again in the bus stop here as we came through to start now the final lap of this first in opening stage, passing Cole Custer, as well going around the outside of that 82 Red Bull car of Casey Kane right to the back of Corey LaJoie. So Elliott, though, in a position where he is, like I said, 14 points below that cut line, and he's about to get a stage victory, which is going to be a tremendous help for him now as we come through, continuing to make up these lost positions here after that mistake in that bus stop chicane here, as we are just trying to make that left-hand side work here, go around that outside of the 17 of Buescher, and sure enough, we make it work. It was 3 wide, actually, for a moment with him, as well as Eric Jones, but Elliott leads the way into oval 3 and 4 for the final time. We managed to get back up to P26, and I can see Kyle Larson up there just where we were earlier, and Kyle Larson, he's in the playoffs, but not very comfortably, so he honestly, if he has a rough race today like he is right now, could end up being eliminated as Chase Elliott has already crossed the line to win stage 1 as we come through the chicane for the final time here, trying to close in and get any position that we can against Tyler Reddick, against Kyle Larson here. It's going to oval 3 and 4 for the final time, but once 10th place crosses that line, the caution will come out, but we get right to the back of them, actually to the inside of Larson and to the inside of the 8 of Reddick, but it didn't matter because the caution had just come out once we got to the inside of the 8, and now there you see the stage 1 result. So we get P25, which isn't terrible, I guess, for us now, as you see Chase Elliott, Matt DiBenedetto, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece, the 4 drivers on the outside looking in, are the top 4 finishers in Stage 1. That is huge right there, and definitely not what I expected to see, and this is going to get very interesting to see how this affects the playoff grid, and especially if they can all remain up there in the top 4 positions. Nobody coming into the pit lane here, so we would get ready to stay out and get ready to go green for the start of this second stage here at the ROVAL for the round of 12 elimination race. Tyler Reddick just in front of myself now as the green flag is back out, and for the first time today, we'll go through into the AMP segment here in Charlotte. I got damaged, boys. There's a big stack up there, and I damaged the front end. It just got worse. I just ran into the back of the 17. I think we got radiator damage, boys. I don't think that was the start to Stage 2 that we were looking for personally. We have a bunch of damage on the front end of this car. You saw a stack up in turns, one on the restart, and then another stack up where I drove into the back of the 17, and we do have a little bit of radiator damage, so the car was not in good shape whatsoever here, and a bad race so far continues to just seem to go downhill. We're still gaining positions because we do got a lot of speed in this car, but obviously we're not getting the maximum potential out of it now. So we had passed Ryan Blaney, and we were now to our rival of Joey Logano, so trying to find a way around him, of course, is a whole unique challenge in itself. But I looked to the outside of Kyle Busch, made it 3 wide there for a moment, and we do get clear of Joey Logano here as we head down towards that final chicane. But right here I see Logano closing in real quick, so I decided to just overshoot the final chicane into the barrier I clip it. We end up getting our second penalty of the race this time because I was trying to avoid getting run into the back of from the 22 of Joey Logano, and that was, I mean, all my fault again. So this disaster race so far continues to get worse for us now, as we were only down to P21 fortunately still, as we were once again working our way back through traffic. But I looked at that moment right there, I said, you know what, from that point on for the rest of this race, we have to just focus and work our way towards that front and get back into the mix here for a potential top 10 at least here from the Charlotte ROVAL, as Matt DiBenedetto, by the way, had taken the lead back from Chase Elliott and was leading the way here in the final few laps of Stage 2. Now as I go a little bit wide in the grass there, just trying to get anything I could here to the left-hand side of Harrison Burton, but very, very frustrated to say the least at this point here in the race now, as we have never had a Charlotte ROVAL race quite go like this for us now, as we were starting the final lap of Stage 2, and now the challenge again was pass our rival of Joey Logano. Now I wanted to complete the pass on him on this final lap because then we can gain a bunch of spots, because I do know that at the end of Stage 2 we will all have to pit for 4 tires, 2 cans of fuel, but we're gonna have to take some extra time and fix the damage that we did to our cars. So that means if we maybe are 1 spot ahead of Joey at the end of the stage, we're gonna be behind him at the start of Stage 3. So we need to try and pass all of these cars right here in this group, so I'm using all the track possible to try and make this happen here. Now it's 3 wide with Kyle Busch and Logano into the left-hander, and so far we make it work side by side with the 22, but fortunately we do get past him and look to the inside of Christopher Bell. Now up into P14, Logano under pressure from the 78 car, and now Matt DiBenedetto leads the way through oval 3 and 4 for the final time here in Stage 2, as we're going to look to the outside of Kevin Harvick, who's also trying to make it into that round of 8 as he looks up the inside of the 3 car of Austin Dillon. No stage points for Kevin Harvick, but he's still in a decent position going into that final stage. Now as we make it 3 wide with Austin Dillon and Kevin Harvick, and we are going to be able to pass both hopefully here through oval 3 and 4, still side by side with Harvick, and sure enough we get clear of him as Matt DiBenedetto wins Stage 2. And we're going to come up short of a top 10, but of course we made quite the comeback here anyways now, as we are going to get P12. We will have to give up some spots here to repair the damage on our car. But you see the top 4, so it's DeBenedetto, Elliott, and Briscoe. Those 3 are still on the outside looking in. Priest got P9, so he's kind of dropping down the order a little bit here and there, but still a top 10 for him, which still gives him a little bit of hope to make it into the next round of the playoffs. Now, as you see, 6 seconds of repairs on the car to make here, as we're going to take 2 cans of fuel as well as 4 fresh tires. So definitely going to be some work to do again going into this third and final stage, and at this point, with the relaxed yellows that we use at road courses, the odds of us getting a caution are a lot lower than they used to be. So we lose 5 spots, and unfortunately, look who's right here, our rival of Joey Logano. So we're going to have to be very careful to not do something stupid like we have in the first 2 stages and damage our car now as the green flag is out, and the third and final stage of the round of 12 is underway. I decide, you know what, my only option here is to force a 3 wide with that 78 to try and get away from the 22 of Logano. Fortunately, we don't run into anybody, and we do get away from that 22 of Logano, so I guess that was problem solved already after just 1 corner in that third and final stage. So I was very comfortable now and confident that we can now just kind of focus on moving our way forwards throughout the field and get a finish that we're deserving of here now, which would be one heck of a comeback considering what we've had already happen and have had go wrong for us in this Charlotte Roval race. To the back now of that 33 of Austin Cindric as we try to complete that pass on the 3 of Austin Dillon. So I know for a fact we have top 5 speed in this car. It's just a matter of, can I keep myself out of trouble? We wrecked in qualifying, we made some mistakes in the first stage, we blew through the bus stop, got a penalty, and then we got ourselves another penalty in that final chicane, trying to not get ran over by the 22 of Joey Logano, which would result in a suspension. So we gave ourselves some penalties, we've gotten some damage in the stack-ups, we had radiator damage, and now finally the car is in great condition, and there is no reason we can't get ourselves a good result here. But the odds of us winning this race without a caution are very low, because by the time we get done working through these cars here, we're going to be ways behind now as we dive to the apron, actually, of the inside of Denny Hamlin, another driver that is comfortably in the playoffs right now. Here's a go down into this final chicane side by side with Cindric now. Very close call right there, and I lose a ton of momentum now trying to make sure I don't wreck the car, so we would now fight back to his right hand side, and at this point there was only 12 laps to go in this race now, and if it stays green to the end like it did last season, we're going to be in a position where it comes down to very close on fuel. But last season we tried to stretch it on fuel and we were like half a lap short, and had no chance of making it. Next thing you know, we went from like a 2nd place finish going for a win to like a 15th place finish. So I decided this season, if it stays green, we're just going to pit this time around, because we have no chance to save fuel right now, because we need to be in full send mode trying to run down these cars in front of us at this point. As I now get a little bit looser out of that bus stop, Denny Hamlin, he was actually hanging with me for about a lap or so now as we were approaching the final 10 laps of this race, but now we were starting to open up the gap to Hamlin with 10 to go, run down Brad Keselowski there in that 7th position. I was feeling pretty good about the car at this point with 10 laps to go. Now, as you can see myself quickly running down that 2 car of Brad Keselowski, now right to the back of him as we're approaching the oval part of this course. Suarez and Gragson actually having great runs up ahead. Now behind us, a huge incident. All of a sudden, the 11 of Denny Hamlin goes crashing head on into the barrier. No caution, but all of a sudden, that changes everything. Denny Hamlin will be DNFing from this race out of nowhere, and his playoffs, his season, has just come to an end as there was no caution. We all continue on our way racing, and Denny Hamlin would eventually get himself back to the pit lane, but his season out of nowhere comes to an end. Playoff hopes ended for Denny Hamlin, as he will very likely be eliminated at the end of this episode now, as he came into this race on the inside of that playoff grid. But now for sure, the way these other drivers on the outside of the grid are running, he is going to be out, as the 10 of Matt DiBenedetto continues to lead the way, trying to win himself in and get his first win of the season. Chase Elliott having a strong run, but I don't know how it's going to look for him, as Matt DiBenedetto leading the race makes it way worse for Chase Elliott here, as all of a sudden that just changed everything. I did not see that coming. I actually, when I was in the live just driving, I heard just a big hit to that big concrete barrier. I think there's a safer barrier he hit, but either way, I heard it behind me, and I looked back and I see his car in a cloud of smoke, and I was just like, wow, that just changed absolutely everything right there for him now, as we would get past Noah Gragson, and we were running down our teammate Chase Elliott, who'd actually drifted down to P4. He won stage 1, but clearly struggling in this third and final stage, and we're very quickly closing in on the final couple laps of this race here in Charlotte. Once again, like I mentioned, I wasn't going to try and stretch it out on field because I knew that I hadn't been saving any at this point anyway, so there was no way that I was going to be able to save enough to hang on to the end here. So we were just kind of waiting to see what happens now with these front runners as we continue to run down Chase Elliott in the closing laps of this race. But Matt DiBenedetto, he continues to drive away in the closing laps of this race as we were at times closing in on the 10 of DiBenedetto, but obviously nowhere near enough time to get anywhere close to that 10 car for Stewart Haas Racing as we continue to get now right to the back of the 9 of Chase Elliott, approaching the final 3 laps of this race here as we come through to 3 to go. I had a bit of a moment out of that final chicane, but there was 3 laps of fuel on the car with 3 laps to go, but that did not mean actually we were good because it was more like we had 2 to 2.5 laps of fuel in the car now as the fuel light does come on before we hit 2 to go, and that was enough of an indication that I wasn't going to actually make it now as Matt DiBenedetto and Chase Briscoe both come into the pit lane here with the final 2 laps underway. Bowman, Chase Elliott, myself, the Hendricks drivers all stay out, but we would actually probably be getting ready to come in approaching the final lap of this race. So now it comes down to a pit stop. Maybe Matt DiBenedetto throws the race away on a pit stop now as I actually get into the back of the 9 of Elliott there, sent him sliding. Fortunately, that didn't turn into anything here as we come through this bus stop chicane approaching the final lap of this race, but unusually we're going to be pitting coming to the final lap here in the Charlotte Roval. Alex Bowman leading the way now, but he is coming into the pit lane as well. I take a quick look at the dash to see how much fuel we have, and that's when I just assured myself we were not going to make it around one more time. So I come into the pit lane, very easy call. We're just going to take half a can of fuel. 3 seconds is all we need. Alex Bowman gets out in front of us, but we destroyed Chase Elliott on the pit entry, so we actually overtake him here coming through to start this final lap. Matt DiBenedetto has already driven on through and taken the lead. Now Chase Briscoe, we actually beat him off of the pit lane, so we are holding on to P3. He drops down into P4. Will Briscoe make it into the next round? That's the big question as well. We had these 4 drivers on the outside looking in, 3 of them right now in the top 5, with Matt DiBenedetto being the last guy in general in the playoffs right now. 21 points on the outside looking in coming into this race, and here he is, the very episode after I said there's no chance DiBenedetto wins at the Charlotte Roval. He is leading the way on this final lap here out of oval turns 2 as we dive down into oval 1. Chase Briscoe has absolutely nothing for us here in this final lap. Elliott down there 4 seconds behind us, I think it said there, in P5 here, as Alex Bowman having another solid run today in second place here as we go down into the bus stop chicane for the final time, and it's on Matt DiBenedetto. The eyes are on Matt DiBenedetto here as he goes into oval 3 and 4 for the final time here at the Charlotte Roval. He hasn't won a race all season, and in a race where he pretty much has to win, he is going to do exactly that there as it goes through that final chicane, and Matt DiBenedetto wins his way into the round of 8 here in the playoffs as we come through the chicane to rebound somehow to P3 here behind second place of Alex Bowman. 4th place goes to Chase Briscoe. Chase Elliott rounds out the top 5. Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, Noah Gregson, Brad Keselowski, and Derek Kraus actually rounds out the top 10 in his final handful of races with that 95 team before they shut down, and then he goes over to the 2311 car with that 45 to be teammates with Bubba Wallace. But you see the rest of the finishing order. Hamlin, the only DNF of the race. He will absolutely be eliminated after that incident here as we will look at the playoff grid right now. There you see it. Kyle Larson actually ends up getting eliminated after a rough race. So all of a sudden, half of HMS is out. Briscoe made it by 5 points. Elliott missed it by 5. Priest out by 24. Hamlin missed it by 40 when he came in to this race on the inside of the cut line. Now, DiBenedetto would have missed the playoffs if he did not win that race still. So, what a change-up of events right there. DiBenedetto somehow makes it, Briscoe somehow makes it, Larson and Hamlin end up getting eliminated now. So, a big change of events. I knew when Hamlin crashed, I was like, wow, that's the end of the season for him. But as always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, you do know what to do. I would like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this one. There you see, we are 45 points above the cut line going into the round of 8 at Kansas. Then we have Texas and Martinsville. 45 points is a very comfortable gap to have, so I'm very confident with the speed in this car. So right now we got 3 Stewart Haas cars, then we got 2 Joe Gibbs cars, 2 Hendrick cars, and then a Penske car here for this final round before the final 4. So before we end it, I'd just like to say a quick thank you to the Going Racing members of MJ, Joseph 9001, RJ, Timothy, Bubba Jr., King Matt XL, Brett Durward, Dark Gengar Gaming, as well as AJ Vasura. As I always say, every episode you guys help me out a lot, and I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one for the start of the round of 8 at Kansas. Have a great day, everybody.